Welcome to Unveiling Grace, a podcast dedicated to finding our own story in the unique stories of the fellow Nazarenes who serve alongside us. I'm Matt Hastings, and I'm a pastor who's been in the Church of the Nazarene all my life. I deeply love the church and all the ways that she's shaped me, and I want us to hear from each other about how the Church of the Nazarene has saved us. In a day and age where there's a lot of line drawing and finger pointing, we want to pull up a chair to the table of our people's past and sit through their stories. Through our guests and the telling of their stories, we will veil the identity of the storyteller until the very end, with the hope that you'll allow their story to shape your view of them, rather than what you've heard about them. Thanks for joining me weekly as we invite fellow Nazarenes to tell their story of why they love this church and why they've stayed. Okay, so I know this is very interesting. Upward basketball or any upward sports usually are church-related, church-run programs for children.
Right.
You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to tell me the story. You got kicked out of an upward basketball game?
Correct.
Okay, share with me.
I did. So growing up, my two brothers played a lot of sports, all the sports. William was playing basketball at this point. I think he was like 7. Young, 7-year-old basketball team. And Upward, given that it is a church, run program, they don't really have the funds to hire referees who know what they're doing.
Okay.
So they enlisted some middle school boys.
Oh.
And I'm sure these middle school boys thought that they were reffing for the NBA because they
They were taking it
were
really seriously.
Serious.
Yeah.
And they were 7 years old. And they were making crazy calls.
Yeah.
So I am a great big sister.
Yeah.
And I'm an advocate.
Yes, I can see that.
So,
apparently you are.
And I was, at that point, a pretty loud advocate.
Outspoken.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
you had some
I
things
directed
to say.
that towards these middle school boys. And the guy who's in charge of Upward, the whole thing, came over to me. And he was like, hey, this isn't like quite what we're doing here. And I was like, well, they need to quit making calls. These are 7-year-olds.
And where were your parents during this?
They were with me. Okay. And my dad looked at me and he was like, maybe we should just go. And I was like, why? And then the guy looked at me and he was like, maybe you should just go. I left and I sat in the car until William was done.
For the good of the body.
And you know what? They didn't win.
Oh.
But maybe if I had stayed, they would have.
So, okay, how did your story start with the Church of the Nazarene? You're a pastor in the Church of the Nazarene. How did it begin? How did your story and your calling into ministry? Talk to me about that.
Sure. I grew up in a Nazarene pastor's home. And a lot of my aunts and uncles and both grandparents are Nazarene pastors. So
it's been what you've known.
It's just kind of been like the only thing I've known. And I wrestled with a long time, like what I wanted to do, because I saw a lot of stuff growing up in a pastor's home that I just was like, I don't really want to do that. I don't really know that I want to preach every week. And so I fought that call to ministry for a really long time and decided, I'll do this, this, and this. And I went to college and was still fighting. I had like 6 majors before junior year. Still fighting it.
Well-rounded,
yes.
All the subjects.
Yes. And I had a friend who was a senior at the time and a religion major. And he said, well, you're like made for this program. Like, just let me know when you're gonna make the choice, and I can be here to help you. Like, and he was a great friend, and I came back from a study abroad like summer and switched my major that fall, and have been, I guess bouncing around for a little while.
Navigating it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something you've known about all your life.
Yeah, and the call definitely has shifted. Like the call to ministry, I feel called to people, and it's less and less I'm noticing like
Yeah.
a traditional
Oh, okay.
form of ministry. So while I was young and I was like, I don't really want to preach every week, I didn't realize that was an option.
Right.
Like that
The specificity was like,
Yeah.
you do these are the things you
Right.
do as a, okay.
Or if
yeah.
I'm in ministry, it looks like this, and this.
Right,
I'm like,
okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know that
if
I
fit that.
feel, yeah. So
Well, so along the journey, who have been, can you name some people that have been championed you? They've been encouragers to you in
yeah. So the first time I felt the call of ministry, like pretty clearly, was in high school. And my youth pastor at the time, Thomas Crummer, he he pushed me, but like in ways that didn't make me want to shut down or shut out the call to ministry. So he encouraged me to lead small groups or
kind of giving you handles for things,
Yes.
opportunities to
Yes.
see what would.
he like had me do announcements and stuff, like little
Yeah.
things to get me up on the platform
Yeah.
and get comfortable. But he always, would tell me that, like,
Yeah.
this is, I can just see it. You just
Yeah.
need to,
Right.
And then going into college, and then these two, like, I think expand past college, even to now. This coming fall will be 10 years since I went as a freshman, which is kind of crazy. So I'm old.
An old lady. Okay.
Kathy Mowry.
Dr. Mowry.
Yeah, Kathy Mowry is like somebody I could still call like today and just be like, hey, I just need to bounce this off of you. Or the amount of times I've sat in her office and cried and been like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Where do I go?
Yeah, she's more than a professor.
Yeah.
To not just you, I know probably lots of people, but so she's more than that.
Yeah.
She
She really helped me to like make the decision to switch my major. She came in on a Saturday a week before school started in the fall and met me on campus and reworked my whole fall schedule. And then the other one would probably be Mike Jackson. And yeah, he's just the best in so many ways. But a time that I remember, like, that keeps just popping up into my head is my husband and I had just gotten married, and we moved about an hour and a half out of Nashville to help plant a church in a really small town. And the pastors that we were helping plant with also went to Trevecca, so we knew them. Mike Jackson knew them. And Mike and Cheryl drove one Sunday to come visit us and visit the service and just see, like, all four of us.
Yeah.
Because,
Doing
like,
the
he's, like, in
practice
action. I just want to see you guys in action.
Sure.
And took us out to lunch afterwards, bought us lunch, just sat, and he was just like, just tell me what you're doing, tell me your dreams, like, what's going on. And he's another one that I could still call and be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or what do I do about this, or I don't know that I want to do this anymore.
Right.
And he'd be there, and
both of those people you mentioned, thinking about a job, it's not their job to come in on a Saturday and help you figure it out. It's not their job to drive an hour and a half and go to the church that you help plant.
Right.
It's their passion and their love for students and people, which is beautiful. You, I happen to know that you are a fan of community, the idea, the concept of community. we would say even an organized religion concept, but even just community at all, because there's a sense of connectedness. There's something about that. What is it about that you think just sort of lights your fire?
I mean, probably on a deep level is just being known by people, and to be loved by them. Like, I knew when I was young. I mean, I would just watch movies, or a commercial would come up of somebody seeing someone else or showing up for them, and I would just cry.
Yeah.
Or I would see a bunch of bikers drive down the street on their motorcycles.
Right, they're together.
And I just was like, look at them.
Yeah.
They love each other so much. They're so cute.
There's something deep in that there, because I think it speaks to the desire, the need, the longing as human beings to be known and to be loved and seen, and finding a group of people that walk together to do it.
Yeah.
You mentioned studying abroad. Did that have some formation into this thought about community?
Sure. I think it probably deepened my understanding of why I like it so much. I taught English to people seeking asylum in Croatia for 3.5 months. And
asylum from
Egypt, it could
Syria,
be some places, South Africa, lots of just reasons too.
Sure.
Religious persecution, war, lots of reasons that people fled. Lots of really hard situations, trauma, lots of traumatizing experiences that these people had. And they lived in this big hotel that Croatia had, the capital had renovated to be the center for refugees. And when I mean renovated, I mean they threw some mattresses on the ground and called it a day. And I went there every day to teach English. And there's so many reasons that's some of the best times of my life. But after class, I would have people come and bring tea, their trays of tea. They made a full huge meal for me and my friends in their hotel room. It was on a hot plate, but it was the best food I've ever had. But it was no sweat off their back. Yeah. This is what we do for each other.
The hospitality for others is great, but this is also just what we do and who we are.
And they had no reason to do any of that. And that's when I started recognizing that my love for community is stemming from creating a hospitable space.
It's a pastoral
for
call
people
that you didn't really have. It didn't have the words to say.
I definitely didn't have the language until, because I think I knew that, but I didn't know what it was until I came back from Croatia.
Everybody should travel.
Totally.
Because I think what a beautiful way that strengthened what God was already doing, but also has clearly stayed with you during these years of ministry.
Yeah.
We call this denomination, or at least the Church of the Nazarene, and really lots of denominations, but particularly our denomination, a family. What is it about our family that matters to the world? When I say what's the big deal? So what about us?
Yeah.
As Wesleyan Arminian theology, a holiness doctrine that says that we are embodying in holy love.
Mm-hmm.
How is that being fleshed out in the world? What does it matter? How have you seen it matter?
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about the like articles of faith that I love in our denomination, like those theological concepts that I like about the Nazarene Church. But like my favorite thing is the interconnectedness of the Nazarene Church. So it's a small denomination, but it's widespread, right?
Yeah.
So it feels big.
Right.
And
it's like a tight knit. It's interesting, right?
You could go anywhere and meet a Nazarene that knows a Nazarene that you know.
Yeah.
And I moved a lot growing up, like 6 times before I left for college.
Pastoral household.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I made family along the way, because there were a few times that we lived like 3 days drive from family.
Yeah.
And those people, like I could go back to those places, and
Even
there
now.
and there are people there that know me, know my life, still know what's going on, and care for me.
That's pretty special.
It's really special. It's so great to, like, I think some of that has to do with the Nazarene Church, right? Is like, these are all Nazarene people.
Right.
And I wouldn't have made it to those places without the Nazarene Church. And even when I was in Croatia, I met Nazarenes that knew a Nazarene back in Michigan that I know, like just the interconnectedness.
Yeah. Because, and that's why I like using the word family, because it is a connectedness.
Yeah.
I talked with someone even just yesterday about a church, or about them moving to a place, and I said, I know the pastor of that church. I know this area, and they're like, really? And you can always make a connection to that, and it's always been my experience. Well, it's been a lot of fun to have you with us today, and talking about community and family. And so, who are you?
I'm Bailey Hastings Davis.
Oh.
And I'm your daughter.
Did I pretend well enough?
You did so good.
Well, thank you for being on with us.
Thanks for having me.
I love you, and I'm real proud of you.
I love you too. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on the Unveiling Grace podcast. This is a ministry of Hermitage Church of the Nazarene. If you'd like to stay up to date on the podcast and other ministries of our church, like the church's Facebook page and follow along. Or you can subscribe to the Unveiling Grace podcast on whatever platform you're using now. If you've enjoyed this podcast, help us out by leaving us a rating and then share it on your social media platforms. Thanks for listening to the stories of those serving alongside us.